look at your hand. Or perhaps, look into the shop window you pass on your way to work. Picture that sparkling little stone that we have all been told is the ultimate symbol of forever, the diamond engagement ring. It is the thing you are supposed to spend 2 months of your salary on. It is the thing you kneel for. It is the thing that supposedly proves your love is real. Now, what if I told you that stone is essentially incredibly pressurized charcoal? What if I told you that it is not rare at all? And what if I told you that the entire tradition of buying it, the price you pay for it, and the emotional weight you attach to it is all part of the single most successful psychological manipulation campaign in human history? Today, we are going to dismantle the illusion. We are going to look behind the curtain of the De Beers cartel and expose the 100-year lie that convinced the world to spend billions on shiny rocks. To understand the scam, we have to start with the biggest myth of all: rarity. We have been conditioned to believe diamonds are precious because they are scarce. Basic economics, right? Low supply meets high demand and prices skyrocket. But geologically speaking, diamonds are not that special. They are just carbon, the most common element for life in the universe, that has been cooked under extreme pressure and heat deep within the earth. They are surprisingly abundant. There are mines in Russia that allegedly hold enough diamonds to supply the entire global market for the next 3,000 years. Scientists even believe it rains diamonds on Neptune and Uranus. So if they are so common, why do they cost a fortune? The answer lies in a dusty corner of South Africa in the late 19th century. Before the 1870s, diamonds actually were rare. They were found occasionally in riverbeds in India and Brazil. Only kings and queens wore them. But then, massive diamond deposits were discovered in Kimberley, South Africa. Suddenly, they weren't just finding one or two. They were digging them out of the ground by the bucket load. This was a disaster for the investors who owned the mines. They knew that if this huge new supply hit the global market all at once, the price of diamonds would crash. They would become as cheap as turquoise or amethyst. The illusion of value would vanish. Enter Cecil Rhodes. Rhodes was a ruthless British imperialist and businessman who understood one thing perfectly. To keep prices high, you must control the supply. He began buying up every claim, squeezing out competitors, and consolidating power. By 1888, he had formed De Beers Consolidated Mines. And for the next century, this single entity effectively controlled the entire global diamond supply. Rhodes created a perfect artificial scarcity. De Beers built massive vaults in London. They shipped all the diamonds from South Africa to these vaults, and then they released them onto the market drip by drip. Just enough to keep the jewelers stocked, but never enough to satisfy demand. They fixed the prices globally. If a new mine was discovered anywhere in the world, De Beers would either buy it or flood the market in that specific region to bankrupt the new competitor, only to take it over later. It was a flawless monopoly. But the real genius and the real darkness of the De Beers story didn't truly begin until the 1930s. The Great Depression had hit. The world economy was in ruins. Nobody had money for bread, let alone useless luxury stones. De Beers was sitting on a mountain of unsold diamonds, and their prices were collapsing. In 1938, Harry Oppenheimer, the son of the company's founder, traveled from South Africa to New York City to meet with the advertising agency NWR. The brief was simple, but seemingly impossible. Get Americans to buy diamonds they didn't want and couldn't afford. The agency conducted research and found something troubling for De Beers. In the late 30s, engagement rings were not really a widespread must-have tradition. People preferred to spend their money on practical things like washing machines or a car. The agency realized they couldn't just sell the stone. They had to sell an idea. They had to attach the diamond to the one thing people valued more than money: love. They decided to wage psychological warfare. The goal was to persuade young men that the size of the diamond they bought was a direct reflection of their professional success and their love for their partner. Simultaneously, they had to convince women that they should not accept anything less than a diamond as a sign of commitment. They infiltrated everything. They gave diamonds to movie stars to wear at awards shows. They placed huge solitaire rings in scenes in Hollywood movies. They sent lecturers to high schools to talk to teenage girls about the importance of future engagement. They even used the British royal family's jewelry habits as marketing material. But they still needed a hook, a slogan that would tie it all together. In 1947, a female copywriter at the agency named Frances Geraghty scribbled down 4 words late one night. 4 words that would become the most recognized advertising slogan of the 20th century. A diamond is forever. It was brilliant. It wasn't just a statement about the stone's physical hardness. It was a psychological trap. If a diamond is forever, it means it symbolizes an eternal marriage. And if it symbolizes eternity, you can never, ever sell it. This was crucial because it prevented a second-hand market from emerging. De Beers knew a dirty secret. Diamonds have almost no resale value. The moment you walk out of the jeweler's door, that ring loses 50% or more of its retail price. If you try to sell it back, you realize it's just a used rock. But if you convince people that selling the ring is bad luck or a sign of failure, the supply stays locked up in people's jewelry boxes, never competing with the new stones De Beers is selling. The campaign worked better than they could have dreamed. In 1939, before the campaign really took off, many American brides didn't get a diamond ring. By the 1980s, it was practically mandatory. But they didn't stop there. They needed to dictate how much people spent. So, the agency invented the salary rule. In its early marketing materials, they suggested spending 1 month's salary. When they realized people were actually following this arbitrary rule, they got greedy. By the 80s, advertisements in the US were pushing the 2-month salary rule. When they entered the Japanese market, they pushed it to 3 months' salary. Think about that. A corporate cartel simply decided you should hand over a massive chunk of your annual earnings for their product, and society just accepted it as a cultural tradition. The story, however, gets darker than just clever marketing. For decades, the artificially high price of diamonds, maintained by De Beers, fueled horrific conflicts in Africa. In the 90s, the world became aware of blood diamonds, or conflict diamonds. In countries like Sierra Leone, Angola, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, rebel groups seized diamond mines and used the profits to buy weapons, funding brutal civil wars that killed millions and utilized child soldiers and forced labor. The industry scrambled to clean up its image with the Kimberley process, a certification scheme meant to stop conflict diamonds from entering the mainstream market. But critics and experts argue it is deeply flawed and that it is still incredibly difficult to guarantee that a diamond is truly 100% conflict-free. Today, however, the De Beers empire is facing its greatest threat yet. Not from warlords, but from science. We now have the technology to create perfect diamonds in a laboratory. Lab-grown diamonds are not fakes. They are not cubic zirconia. They are carbon atoms arranged in the exact same crystal lattice structure as a mined diamond. They are chemically, physically, and optically identical. Even professional gemologists cannot tell them apart without specialized, expensive equipment. The only difference is that one was cooked in the earth for 1 billion years and dug up by potentially exploited labor, and the other was grown in a plasma reactor in a few weeks. Oh, and the price. Lab-grown diamonds are 30, 40, sometimes 50% cheaper than their mined counterparts. For years, De Beers fought back. They ran campaigns trying to brand lab-grown diamonds as synthetic, soulless, or not the real thing. They tried to lean back into the old myth of rarity. But the younger generations, millennials and Gen Z, aren't buying it. They care more about ethics, sustainability, and not going into debt for a symbol. In a stunning admission of defeat, De Beers recently launched their own brand of lab-grown diamonds called Lightbox. After a century of telling us only natural is real, they are now selling the very thing they tried to destroy. It is the final proof that the scarcity was always a lie. So, where does that leave us? When you look at a diamond ring now, what do you see? Do you see a symbol of romance? Or do you see a monument to monopoly, artificial scarcity, psychological manipulation, and corporate greed? There is nothing wrong with wanting beautiful things or giving gifts to the people you love. But it is time we stop letting a cartel dictate the terms of our relationships. The value of a commitment isn't measured in carats, and it certainly isn't measured by 2 months of your salary handed over for a common rock that a clever ad agency told you was rare. The illusion has lasted for 100 years. Maybe it is time to wake up.